moments where, something bothered him.
He could be, look, I think there's times when he could be, say something snarky about another politician that maybe sounded petty. But I think that's a quality that's not above anybody. It's, or maybe it would be, let's say, gossipy. He was not above political gossip. Let's put it that way.
He was not.
No.
Got it.
So if you're talking about, me trying to say, yes, he didn't walk on water, but that's not a horrible trait in my judgment. That's something people do all the time. But I can't give you anything. He didn't drink to excess in front of me. He was not a womanizer. He was a very generous man. He did good things with me.
Would he ever talk to you, like, for example, would he ever sit there behind closed doors and you're not an economy background, but you had some stuff you did with Greenspan. So you have an economy where you're coming and saying, here's a budget, here's how much money we got to deal with this. So you understand money well. Would he say to you ever any questions behind closed doors, second guess, and saying, you know what? When I said we're this going off of gold standards is going to be temporary, I should have never done it. When it came down to this, I should have never resigned. Did he ever tell you I should have never resigned? Did he ever say any of that stuff?
Well, he did talk about he shouldn't have fired Haldeman and Ehrlichman. That's for sure. That he felt that he mentioned that more than once. That he felt that was a bad decision that he made.
Why?
Because it didn't change anything. He said that they were loyal to him. They were his. He said it was like cutting off his right arm and his left arm, and that he felt that that was a mistake that he made. That it didn't make any difference it didn't make any difference in his presidency. It didn't help him. It didn't help him out any, and it just hurt them. And I think in the end, probably worked to his disadvantage in a lot of ways. It turned Ehrlichman against him. It hurt Haldeman a lot, although Haldeman didn't turn against him. But I think he got nothing out of it, is what he meant. And he said that any number of times. That who's the one that turned against him? Not Haldeman. Who turned against him? Ehrlichman was in the end more bitter about it.
But did either one of them come back and destroy him and become an enemy of him?
No.
So why was he second guessing that decision there? Is it because he liked them and
because
he misread them?
They were the most important people on his staff.
So why did he fire them initially?
Because there was a lot of pressure. Because there was all this pressure on him that at the time the Washington Post and they had been testifying for the Senate Watergate committee, and the grand jury was after them. There was a lot of public attention put on them that they had participated in the obstruction of justice. That Ehrlichman had participated in this plumber's operation and everything. And that they were at the center of a lot of the illegal, allegedly at the center of a lot of the illegal activities in the White House, and that so they were anchors around Nixon's neck, and so there was I can't remember who all was saying. He was probably getting some internal advice that, look, this is just negative to you, Mr. President. You've got to get rid of these two guys. And because it's just negative to your presidency.
So it was a scapegoat. He needed to fire somebody to say, it's like a football team's got a bad record, they fired a coach.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's fire these guys to make it seem like, well, it wasn't me, it was really them that did it.
Yeah, and sometimes
that mess with them.
And it doesn't help. Yeah. So let's, okay, so the baseball team's not doing any good, so you fire the general manager, and it doesn't make any difference. Right?
Instead, what should he have done? When he tells you that and it goes down, and what does he say? Does he say, I should have done this? I should have done that?
I should have kept them, is what he said, because he leaned on them so much. He leaned on their advice. Bob Haldeman was the guy he talked to, the first guy he talked to in the morning, the last guy he talked to at night.
Oh, wow.
And so
these guys are very big, influential people in his administration.
Oh, yeah. No. They were the two key guys that he talked to all the time.
What did they end up doing afterwards? What big job did they have after Nixon? Did they ever have another big job, or nobody trusted them?
Both of them went to prison. And then they both wrote books, and I can't remember.
They both went to prison.
Yeah.
How long did they? Do you remember how long? Was it a good amount?
It was, I think, several months. They were not. It wasn't years and years. I can't remember.
So Nixon took responsibility for this happening with these guys. He felt like it was his fault that they went to jail.
I think it was. He felt it was his fault that they. I think he felt they got a bad rap, and I think a lot of them got bad raps. That's a whole different story.
So did they ever have another job, Rob? They went to what? He was found guilty and in prison for 18 months, wrong time release. He returned to private life, owns a successful businessman, real estate developer until his death.
Had another.
Is that Haldeman or
Haldeman?
This is Haldeman.
Yeah, he had another job afterwards.
So he came back and went in business. He was fine. He died from cancer at 60-something.
Yeah.
How about
Ehrlichman wrote books, and I don't know if he had a real job. He wrote books.
He was also in jail for a year and a half. By the way, did you ever see them after the Watergate scandal? Were you ever there where they reunited afterwards, or
I saw Haldeman.
You saw Haldeman?
Yeah.
Him and Nixon were together afterwards.
No, I just saw Haldeman.
And how was
personally one-on-one?
Oh, I'm sorry, got it. But never with Nixon. They never reunited with Nixon.
They did reunite, but I wasn't with them.
All three of them?
No, I don't think I ever saw Ehrlichman again.
Is it because Ehrlichman was like done with it?
As far as I know.
Okay. And when you met with Haldeman, how was he? What did he tell you?
It was a very interesting meeting. Haldeman, we were all terrified of Haldeman in the White House.
Why?
He was because he was a very... they called him Sweet Old Bob because it was because it was the initials for SOB.
So he was a tough guy
because he was very stern, he had very strict rules, and he had a very stern demeanor and personality, and he wasn't very he ran things all by the rule book. So I had one conversation with him the entire time I was in the White House. And then I knew he was going to call me to get a piece of information. And I was scared, I was frightened that I was nervous that he was going to call me for this piece of information, that I would screw up and I'd get in trouble. And even though it was just a simple, he was going to call me to ask me how the press treated some piece of information. So people were...
he had a reputation? What caused the reputation, though? Would he have blow-ups or...
Yeah, just don't screw up around Haldeman, you get in trouble.
Got it.
He's just a tough guy. He ran a tight ship, and even those people who worked for him knew that he was stern and ran a real tight ship. So... anyway, so Bob was just...
Was he Nixon's number one general?
Yeah, he was chief of staff.
Okay. And then how about Ehrlichman? What role did he play?
He was head of domestic council. He was the head of domestic affairs. But he was the lead. He and Haldeman went to school together, and Haldeman brought him into the campaign to run the advance operation. But then Ehrlichman ran the whole domestic affairs operation. So he ran all the domestic. So he oversaw the entire domestic council and all the domestic legislation and everything else.
So Ehrlichman was not as feared as Haldeman was.
Well, he didn't have the same role as Haldeman in terms of running staffing or anything else.
Got it.